I am more than happy to lie to you.
How often?
Well, don't worry, it'll be a good lie.
How often did George Washington get sick?
He was actually a fairly healthy individual. He only had a few bouts of severe illness in his life. First one being a smallpox when he was a young man before I even met him. And smallpox will claim the life of quite a few people in my day. And then also, near the end, let's step over here, they've got people coming out. Near the end of the French and Indian War, he fell ill with a violent pleuric pain. At first I thought it was tuberculosis, the same disease he claimed his brother Lawrence's life. But fortunately it was not, it was a violent pleuric pain. In your day you would know that as severe bronchitis or pneumonia. It took him about a month to get over. And then of course Quenzy, or in your day epiglottitis, which is the disease that claimed his life.
That's not correct. So what about his teeth?
Pardon, dear?
His teeth.
What about them, dear?
Were they made out of wood?
No, dear, no. His dentures were never made of wood, and if you think about it, you realize how silly it is to ever think that he did have wooden teeth. First off, what would wooden teeth look like?
Wood.
Brown, nice grain work. Oh, George, you're going to a party. Take your teeth out, sand them down, varnish them so they look nice for the party. No. You bite into something too hard with wooden teeth, you split your tooth, you get splinters in your mouth. God forbid you should ever smoke. Think about it.
Oh, yeah.
Mouth get off back. Now, the true story of George Washington's dentures is much more interesting, much more intriguing than wooden teeth. George Washington, just a moment, dear, I'm still speaking. Yeah.
Okay.
The true story of George Washington's dentures, much more intriguing. George Washington's dentures were made of human teeth and hippopotamus ivory. Yes, dear.
No, I was just want to repeat this.
But
I was just want to repeat that.
repeat what, dear?
Our teacher gave us note cards, and that was exactly what we got on the note cards.
Some of them are excited to share what they know already.
Yeah.
Oh, so, well, excellent. Well, I didn't know that, so next time chirp up and say, I've got the answer to that, I can help you. Yes.
So I understand he had slaves at 11, and he had 10 of them?
Yes. When his father died, they were left to him in his will.
So how did he feel about it?
Well, now, George Washington's opinion on slavery changed throughout his life. Now, you've got to understand, you've got to think in our day, our perspective here. Slavery is everywhere. Now, George Washington, during the Revolutionary War, changes his opinion on slavery. Because you've got to remember, slaves at this time are thought of as property. Just as you have this bag here, that's your property. You may also have a slave as your property. You can buy it, sell it, do with it as you please. Now, during the Revolutionary War, George Washington writes and says, after fighting alongside the Negro, I am convinced he is not of an inferior race. Therefore, he stops the buying and selling of slaves himself. He refuses to buy or sell any slaves anymore. Now, some people say, well, why didn't he just free all of his slaves right then? Well, he would have. However, economics stops him from this. You see, George Washington has 8,000 acres of property, or 12 square miles of property. He's farming it. Now, he's got 316 slaves. A lot of them are working these fields. The way he raises his money, the way he makes his money. Now, some people say, well, you know, he's got to feed and clothe and house these slaves. Why doesn't he just free them and pay them what it costs him to do that? That sounds wonderful, doesn't it?
It does.
However, if he does this, and the neighbors of the other farms look over and they say, George Washington has such good workers, I wish I had those workers. Go offer them $1 more. All of a sudden they're offered $1 more and they go, General, we got offered $1 more. Can you match that? Can you exceed that? So all of a sudden he's paying $1 more, they pay $1 more, and pretty soon he's not making any money anymore. So, economics dictates that he keeps them as slaves in order to prosper, to make money, to not go into debt, trying to pay for the workers that he already has. Now, George Washington honors the slave marriages and families. That may not sound like a lot to you all, but slaves at this time, the marriages are not legal. The families, it's property. You may have a child and come home one day and guess what? Your child's gone, been sold. George Washington will not do this. He will keep your family together. Now, being what it is, he is thought of as a good slave master. Now, a lot of people say, well, there's no such thing as a good slave master. They have slaves. Yes, dear.
Okay. Well, his slaves, they got chickens. They were able to own chickens, and they could trade at the market, and they even own guns.
Exactly. Yes, huntsmen. Well, part of them are going to be hunting out in the woods there for food and such like that. And it is correct. They had their own chickens. They had slaves get 1 day off a week. Now, on this day off, they can rest. They can do what they do. Say you're a seamstress. You make beautiful dresses. On that day off, you can go next door to the next family over and go, hello there, I'm from Mount Vernon, and I'd just like to let you know, if you'd like to have a lovely dress made as beautiful as Lady Washington's, I can do that for you for a price. You can hire yourself out to other families. You raise chickens, you can sell those eggs. As a matter of fact, General Washington doesn't have chickens of his own. He buys all his eggs from his slaves.
OMG.
So, now there is a problem with all of this. Upon his death, George Washington, in his will, frees all of his slaves, with the provision that they will not be freed until after Lady Washington dies. He does not want to leave her in economic dire straits. Remember, economics. He frees one slave outright. His manservant, William Lee, who had been with him all throughout the Revolutionary War, probably more friend than slave. He frees him outright, gives him a $30 a year annuity, so pays him $30 a year for the rest of his life. Gives him, if he wishes to stay at Mount Vernon, room, board, clothing, food. Some people say, paid him $30 a year. That is quite a lot. Remember, one of the overseers, so one of the top men, sort of an executive, shall we say, is paid an astronomical price of $100 a year. So a good wage is about $10 a year. So William Lee is paid quite well. Now the problem, but yes, so did you? Oh, I just thought you might have information to depart. Now, what happens when he dies, and Lady Washington actually frees the slaves a year after the general dies. So before she dies, she says, we're just going to go ahead and free these. Now when she does, exactly what George Washington didn't want to happen happened. You see, George Washington freed his slaves. But not all the slaves of Mount Vernon were his slaves. Lady Washington brought about half of those slaves to the marriage from her first marriage. Her first husband, dower slaves, exactly. Now Daniel Parke Custis, her husband, dies without a will. So Lady Washington cannot sell, cannot free these slaves. Legally, she cannot do this. All she can do is have life rights. So when she dies, those slaves will be divvied amongst the Custis heirs. Now, the problem being is, 40 years of living with General Washington, 40 years these slaves are all living together. Love knows no bounds. So the Washington slaves and the Custis slaves, these dower slaves, have all fallen in love, married, intermingled and such like that, so that when the Washington slaves are freed, it tears these families apart. Yes, yes.
Because it's at the time of Washington's death in 1799, there were 370 slaves at Mount Vernon.
That is correct. So.
Oh, I got something.
Yes.
George Washington died of Quincy.
Yes.
And essentially his throat swelled shut.
Yes,
Telling the doctor this.
Yes. In your day, quinsy is known as epiglottitis.
Epiglottitis.
Yes.
Epiglottitis.
Bacterial infection of the epiglottis.
We'll save the rest of the cards for some other spots today, guys. And don't worry if you miss your time, because the doctor's taking your fact. We'll be okay.
But I'm going to tell you about DC. DC is so fun. Oh my God.
You know, Capital City is just starting at this time.
It is.
Yes, as a matter of fact, a lot of that property that creates the District of Columbia come from General Washington.
I knew that.
Did you know he helped design the city?
He was a surveyor.
Yes.
And Benjamin Banneker.
So what are your pants made out of?
These are cotton.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about your clothes too.
What would you like to know?
What's it called? Like,
This is a three-piece suit. Breeches, so they come to the knee. There.
I say pants.
Waistcoat or waistcoat. A coat or jacket, and a cravat, which is basically what you would call a necktie.
A necktie.
So couldn't you like shave the sheep and then put it on you in the winter?
Well, we do take the wool from the sheep and spin it into yarn and thread and such, and we do make clothing from that. We when it gets cold in the winter, I will not wear cotton, I will wear wool. Because it's warmer.
Warmer.
Yes, dear.
What type of medicines are used to cure the sick?
All sorts of types. A lot of the ones that you're going to use, we're using different herbs, different minerals. Actually, we even use mercury.
Oh!
Yes. Now, don't go drinking a thermometer. It's not going to help you. But a proper infusion, even to your day, your very day, can be used to help nerve damage and such.
With your necktie?
Yes,
how does
with
it
the
come
cravat.
out your sleeves?
Oh, that's the sleeves.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. It's ruffle here. It's a ruffle. It's like it all ties together. It's coordination. Yes,
do you have names like French cuffs and stuff like that?
Different. Yes, different types. This is a cravat. Then you also have a neck stock, which is not flounced like this. It just goes straight across the throat and ties in the back. So.
I got one at home.
Ooh, nice stuffy picture.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You had an appointment at 10:30, so we don't want to keep you too. So.
You're not here yet.
Okay.
Oh,
you too.
she
Wait a
touches
minute,
me
you
like
guys.
she knows
Come
me.
get me.
Yeah.
What's your haircut?
Am I in the picture?